When my parents passed, they invested all their money into the Foose family and entrusted me with their affairs. For 8 years, I used their connections to double the assets of Foose Group, helping him become a major figure in the entertainment world. I thought our marriage would be a happy step forward, but everything changed unexpectedly. I became a burden in his parents' eyes and also a source of tension between him and his adopted sister. The night before the wedding dress fitting, an unhappy employee stabbed me while he was stargazing on a yacht with his adopted sister, Serafina. I sent a simple, cold message. You can go to the fitting tomorrow. I'll come after I'm done with my work. I had heard that line too many times and no longer believed it, so I chose not to force the issue. 7 days later, filled with all my disappointments, I withdrew my parents' investment from the Foose family and cut ties with Foose's resources in the entertainment industry. Alone, I drove to the hospital with blood on my arm, where a young male doctor treated the wound. He stitched it quickly, his face emotionless, only remarking that it would leave a scar. I smiled bitterly, rolling up my sleeve and saying it was fine, after all, no one would care. After leaving the hospital, I took a photo of the injury and posted it online, something I had never done before. But tonight I felt the urge to see if he would worry like he did years ago, even over a small cut. I didn't expect him to comment so soon, but he did, and liked the post too. Stop playing these games. I'm tired of them. Try something new. My eyes became moist. He used to leave kind comments on every one of Serafina's posts, but now he only offered this cold sarcasm to me. Not long after, the phone rang. It was a video call from Serafina, her eyes red as she sobbed. Aurelia, it's all my fault you got hurt, and your brother isn't with you. Let him come back to be with you. I'll stay here alone on the boat. Then Thaddeus held her in his arms and gently spoke. Be good, don't mind her. She's just pretending. He looked at me, his gaze filled with disgust. You scared my sister to tears. Are you satisfied? He warned. If you still want to marry me, stop these childish games. I tried to hold back my tears, forcing a smile. I'm sorry, it was my fault. Foos briefly turned his attention back to Serafina, then teased, What's this? Trying a new tactic? He smiled. That's a good attitude. Keep it up. He ended the call right after, and my tears began to fall. That evening, when I arrived at the villa, my parents were waiting anxiously. They immediately rushed over. I heard Mr. Thompson threatened you with a knife. I nodded and showed them the bandaged wound on my arm. The police had already taken him away, but it was a minor injury. Before I could finish, Thaddeus's father interrupted. No media knows about this, right? This needs to be suppressed quickly, or it will affect the company's stock. A bitter wave filled my chest, and my eyes welled up, but I managed to hold it back. Don't worry, everything has been arranged. Afterward, I silently lowered my sleeve and returned to my room. Holding my parents' portrait, I cried, Mom! Dad! No one in this world cares about me anymore. The next morning, I arrived at the bridal shop on time. Just before noon, Thaddeus called. I have to go with Serafina for a fitting today, so I won't be coming. He hung up immediately after. I gave a self-deprecating smile and left. After a long day at the company, I returned late at night to the villa. When I opened the door, it was dark. Everyone had already gone to bed. I quietly returned to my room and was surprised to find Thaddeus sitting on the bed waiting for me. In an instant, he pulled me into the room, pinned me to the wall, and kissed me. One hand held me down while the other hurriedly began removing my clothes. Suddenly, I remembered the photo Serafina had posted recently. A picture of her in a swimsuit with the caption, I tried on swimsuits today and my brother was watching. He said I looked beautiful, and I blushed as he swallowed. Every time Serafina posted something like that, the demand for attention from Thaddeus became especially intense. At first, I didn't understand, but now I did. Thaddeus was unwilling to touch Serafina, so he vented his emotions on me instead. I resisted, saying, No, please, I don't feel well today, as the wound on my arm was pressed painfully. But he didn't listen. Focusing only on his desires, I felt like a helpless puppet, crying as I let him manipulate me. My vision blurred, and then he pressed down on my wound, causing sharp pain that made me scream. Blood soaked my sleeve, and Thaddeus finally panicked, releasing his grip. You really are hurt. I endured the pain as I slowly stood up, reaching for my pants on the floor, intending to leave. But Thaddeus stopped me, saying, It's raining outside. Let me drive you to the hospital. Just as I was about to nod, there was a sudden knock on the door. Thaddeus opened it to find Serafina standing there, tears streaming down her face, looking frightened. She rushed into his arms. "Brother, there's thunder. I'm scared." Thaddeus gently kissed her forehead. "Don't be afraid. Your brother is here. I'll stay with you tonight." He picked her up and scolded her softly for coming out barefoot, concerned she might catch a chill. They disappeared from my view, and only then did my tears finally fall. I struggled to sit up, enduring the pain in my arms and lower body, and drove to the hospital in the rain. That same cold male doctor, Lucian, was the one who bandaged me again. As he worked, he frowned and said, "Your injury is already so bad. Why did you drive yourself here? Do you realize that getting wet in the rain could make it worse?" I felt tears welling up in my eyes. His tone carried a hint of reproach, but there was care behind it. If a stranger could show such concern, then why hadn't the person I loved for so many years even noticed? I waited in the hospital corridor until 5 a.m., hoping the rain would stop before driving back to the villa. On my way to my room, I passed by Thaddeus's father's study and overheard their conversation. Thaddeus's lazy voice came from inside, asking, "What's going on? Why did you wake me up so early?" His father lowered his voice in irritation. "How could you spend the night in Serafina's room? What if Aurelia finds out?" Thaddeus replied nonchalantly, "Oh, she won't care. I've already explained that Serafina is just my sister and we didn't do anything." Thaddeus's mother chimed in, "There are only a few days left before the wedding. Can't we wait until after the ceremony to discuss this?" His father responded, "All these years, we've let her live here for free just so you could take her shares once you're married, right? You can't mess this up now. You're not marrying her for the money, are you?" Thaddeus's dad continued, "Think about it. Why did we bring her back 8 years ago? Aurelia is an outsider. Serafina is the wife we've chosen for you. Once you get the shares, you can divorce Aurelia and marry Serafina. That way the Fuss family won't have any outsiders, and whatever we earn in the future will stay in the family." My heart broke hearing those words. This was the brother my father always praised, the one who wanted to help him. But in the end, this family was truly cold-hearted. I was so angry I trembled, fists clenched, and quickly retreated to my room. I packed some personal items and left the house when no one was looking. By 10 a.m., I contacted someone and got into his luxury car in the underground parking lot. A deep voice whispered in my ear, "Have you made up your mind?" I nodded firmly, replying, "Yes, all the shares are yours. The sooner, the better." Then, I found an agent and rented a high-end apartment. To my surprise, when I moved in, I bumped into someone I knew. It was Lucian, the doctor. He appeared to have just finished a night shift, with bloodshot eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. I awkwardly chuckled. "Would you believe me if I said I moved here to be your neighbor for convenience and changing dressings?" I didn't mean to joke, but I didn't know how to explain my situation. He suddenly lowered his head and laughed, and that's when I noticed how handsome he was when he smiled. "Nice to meet you, neighbor. I'm Lucian," he said, extending his hand. I shook it and introduced myself, Aurelia. Later that night, Fuss called me. When I answered, his first question was, "Why aren't you home so late?" A wave of sadness hit me. My belongings were no longer in the room I once called mine, yet no one in that family seemed to notice. I made up an excuse, telling him I had been drinking with clients and stayed at the company dormitory since the villa was too far and I was too lazy to return. His response was cold. "Tomorrow at 10 a.m., go to the store to try on the wedding dress. Don't be late." As I was about to agree, I heard Serafina's playful voice in the background. "Bro, I bought a little toy. Do you want to try it?" The words instantly made unpleasant images flash in my mind, and I couldn't help but feel nauseous. I quickly agreed and hung up. I rushed to the bathroom, vomiting until I felt dizzy, collapsing on the cold tiles. My tears soaked my long hair. Why are other people's childhood sweethearts the most cherished in their hearts, while mine feels like a dagger piercing my soul? The next day, the wedding dress fitting went smoothly and finished in just over an hour. Serafina kept calling Thaddeus, asking him to accompany her for a commercial shoot. Watching him hurry off, my heart didn't stir at all. I simply wanted the wedding to be over. Later, I visited Thaddeus's father at Fuss Group and told him I wanted to resign as general manager to focus on taking care of Thaddeus after we got married. I visited the villa once, and Serafina was home alone. She dropped her act, pulling me into her room to show me a bed full of lingerie. "Aurelia, I wore this sailor suit on my brother's birthday and this leopard print one the day he won an award." I interrupted impatiently. "What exactly do you want to say?" Her expression suddenly turned fierce as she pointed at me. I'm telling you, you're just an orphan living off others. Don't even think about possessing Fuss. He's mine. I coldly smiled, saying, So what? The bride tomorrow isn't you. Turning to leave, she shouted angrily, Just wait. On the day of the wedding, guests started arriving at the banquet hall while I leisurely stayed backstage, not even having changed into my wedding dress. Thaddeus's mother rushed over, panicking. Why haven't you changed yet? The ceremony's about to start. I pointed at the wedding dress that was already torn and smiled without saying a word. I didn't expect Thaddeus's mother to suddenly turn around and slap Serafina, saying, Was it you who did this? Don't you know how important today is? There are important people outside, and your actions have embarrassed the Fuse family. At that moment, Fus rushed in and held the crying Serafina in his arms. Brother, she sobbed, Aurelia ruined my wedding dress, but it wasn't me. I'm so wrongly accused. Fuss was furious and shot a fierce glare at me and his mother. Enough! Everyone's here, and if you're not wearing a wedding dress, so be it. Hurry up and go out. It's not like you're naked, so stop acting shy. I smiled faintly and followed his lead onto the stage. As the audience saw what I was wearing, whispers spread throughout the crowd. The host on stage was also stunned, unsure how to proceed. I took the microphone from him without hesitation and loudly announced, Thank you all for being here today. I have 2 announcements to make. First, I have resigned as the general manager of Foos Group and sold all my shares in Aurelia Family Investments to Victor Group. As soon as I said those words, the room buzzed with excitement. Before the Thaddeus family could react, I continued, Secondly, my wedding to Fuss is called off, and we will no longer have any dealings with each other. Thank you. My statements dropped like a bomb, shocking everyone, especially since many of them were partners of the Fuss family or had come for Aurelia family's reputation. As soon as the news spread, the Fuss family lost 40% of their shares, as well as some key partners. The Victor Group, which had taken over the shares, was their biggest competitor. This situation would likely make it very hard for the Fuse family to recover. Fus snatched the microphone from my hands, his eyes wide with fury and filled with terrifying bloodshot veins as if he wanted to devour me. Do you even know what you're saying, Aurelia? Are you crazy? I smiled calmly and responded firmly, Thaddeus, you're mistaken. I'm not crazy. I've finally woken up. We grew up together as childhood sweethearts, and I gave you all my love. My parents trusted you completely before they passed away, and entrusted all my family's assets to the Fuss family without hesitation. But in the end, you let them down. Now I am reclaiming everything from the Aurelia family, including my love for you. How can that be crazy? He looked at me, stunned, as if he didn't understand what I was saying at all. On what grounds are you reclaiming your love? Didn't I fulfill your biggest wish by marrying you? What are you up to now? I calmly asked, Do you love me? He quickly responded, I've always told you I love you. Why do you need to ask again? I gave a bitter laugh. Your love is truly special. I want to ask, how do you love me? Is it love when you secretly watch my sister try on lingerie behind my back? Is it love when you kiss my sister in front of me? Or is it love when you're scared of thunder and choose to share a bed with her, leaving me to brave the rain and go to the hospital alone? And your parents are relying on our Aurelia family for success, yet they're scheming to take my shares, planning for you to divorce me after fooling me into giving them up. Does that count as love? Your family's love is truly special. I really can't bear it. Fu stood there, stunned by my words, silent for a long time. A guest nearby couldn't help but speak up. I told old Lin before that the Foos family isn't trustworthy. He just wouldn't listen, insisting on being polite. If it weren't for Aurelia, I wouldn't have given them the project. I'd cancel the collaboration right now. Another voice joined. Exactly. If it weren't for Aurelia, why would I invest in this actor with poor acting skills to make a movie? Foos's father was the first to react, kicking Serafina away. Foos's mother immediately stepped forward and slapped her several times. You little girl! At just 18, you seduce my son. What a waste for us to have brought you back from the orphanage. What a shameless person. After saying that, she spat on Serafina's face, then immediately put on a pitiful look and rushed toward me, grabbing my hand. Aurelia, it's all a misunderstanding. How could we possibly let you divorce? It was that young girl who did something so inappropriate. We didn't know. Please forgive us and give the shares back, I scoffed, shaking off his hand. I heard it with my own ears. There's no misunderstanding. At that moment, Fuss's father also approached, his expression suddenly softening. Impossible. You must have heard wrong. Old Lynn and I have been through so much together. How could we do something like that? Besides, if you don't believe us, at least believe your father. If we were really bad people, how could he have entrusted you to our family before he passed away? I had had enough of their hypocrisy and was too tired to waste more words. Just as I was about to leave, Fuss grabbed me. He was no longer angry, and his eyes were misty with tears. Aurelia, are you really willing to give up the feelings we've built over so many years? Before I could respond, Serafina rushed over and hugged him. Brother, if she wants to leave, let her go. The Fuss family has plenty of money. We don't need her little shares. If she leaves, I'll marry you. Don't you like it when I dress up as a little wild cat? From now on, I'll dress like this every day for you, okay? Before Fuss could react, he slapped her, and blood immediately dripped from the corner of her mouth. Shut up, what do you know? As I tried to leave, Thaddeus's father and mother immediately blocked my path, no longer as friendly as before. Their expressions turned serious. Want to leave? It's not that simple. You need to give the shares back. Otherwise, you're not leaving here. At that moment, a deep, commanding voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Anyone who tries to stop Aurelia from leaving today is going against me. With that, a middle-aged man in a gray-black suit, his face stern, stepped out from the crowd and stood beside me. The shares are already in my possession. Do you think you can get them back? It's best if you take your two sons home quickly and figure out what to do next. As he spoke, he grabbed me and led me through the crowd, swaggering out. No one from the Thaddeus family dared to stop us, because Victor was known for being merciless. If it weren't for his minor connection to my father, he would have acted long ago. When I sold my shares, he not only offered a high price, but also promised a favor I could call in whenever I wished. After leaving the hotel, he opened the car door for me, but I was surprised to see a familiar face. Dr. Lucian was sitting calmly in the back seat, looking at me with a neutral expression. Seeing me freeze, Victor nudged me and pushed me inside, then smiled. My brother said he knows you, so I came with him to attend your wedding. He then took the driver's seat and started the car. Lucian maintained his cold demeanor, asking only about my injuries. Then he rolled up my sleeve to check them. We'll change the bandages when we get home, he said. The entire journey was silent. Victor took us to his private club for a meal, where he generously expressed his admiration for me, hoping I could help his group. Victor, I'm now worth over 100 million. I don't think I need to work anymore, I replied. He laughed heartily. Lucian, sitting next to me, asked seriously, What are your plans for the future? I shook my head and answered, I'm not sure. I've always wanted to see the northern lights, so I might go to Alaska first. From now on, I just want to live freely on my own. Later that night, at home, I took a small box from my suitcase. Inside were several diaries that captured little moments between me and Thaddeus over the years. I pulled out a fire pit, tore the pages from the diaries one by one, and threw them into the flames, watching them burn into ashes. October 9th. I was bullied by some kids at school today, and Thaddeus beat them all up. So cool. August 15th. Today is my birthday. Thaddeus gave me a cute rabbit plushie that he made by hand. What should I do? My heart is racing. I really like him, but the teacher says middle schoolers can't date. November 2nd. The first snow of the year has finally arrived. This is the first snow we've experienced in college. Thaddeus held my hand, and we walked through the snow for a long time. He said this way, we could walk together until we're old and gray. It's so nice. I'll definitely grow old with him. May 8th. Today, my parents passed away in a car accident. Before he died, Dad handed my hand to Thaddeus, who cried and promised to take care of me for life. From now on, Thaddeus is my only remaining family. June 3rd. Today, Serafina accused me of stealing her perfume and cried very sadly. It was the first time Thaddeus got angry with me. Forget it. She's still young. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. I'll try to be kinder to her. October 10th. Today I saw Serafina cuddled up in Thaddeus's arms, looking very happy together. I feel like the third wheel between them. In the later entries, every page was stained with tears. Tearing the pages out one by one felt like pulling long needles from my heart. The pain spread through every nerve in my body. After the final page was burned, it felt as though the needles had been pulled out, but my heart was left scarred. Exhausted from crying, I lay on the bed and took out my phone, filled with missed calls and messages from Thaddeus. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I blocked all his contact information. But the more I tried to escape, the harder it became. The news on social media was full of him. The top star Thaddeus has a strange hobby. He likes catgirls. Thaddeus is caught in scandal. His relationship with his adopted daughter is a mess, and rumors say he has HIV. Thaddeus's movie has been urgently pulled from release. Thaddeus's management is demanding a contract termination and hefty compensation. After seeing all of this, I felt nothing anymore. There was no satisfaction in revenge, only regret that the Thaddeus who once protected and loved me with a smile like sunshine was gone forever. I locked myself in my house for 3 days. My tears dried up. It felt like a complete farewell to my youth. As I finished getting dressed and was about to leave, there was a sudden loud knock at the door. Peeking through the peephole, I was shocked to see Thaddeus, neatly dressed, holding a bouquet of roses. A tightness formed in my chest, and I couldn't bring myself to speak. He kept knocking, the sound growing louder. Eventually, Lucian, from across the hall, opened the door, looking displeased. "Please stop this, or I'll call the police for disturbing the peace." Thaddeus shot him a fierce glare. "I advise you to mind your own business. I didn't knock on your door." Seeing the two about to argue, I had no choice but to open the door and step outside. As soon as the door opened, Thaddeus immediately handed me the flowers. "Aurelia, can you give me a chance to explain? It's no longer possible for us, and there's no need to discuss it further," I said. "I don't want any more interactions. Please leave." I tried to close the door, but he blocked it with his arm. "Aurelia, it really isn't what you think. I am with you because I love you. My parents only care about money, not me. I married you because I truly wanted to spend my life with you. I never thought about divorcing you. As for what they said about Serafina being my wife, that's all nonsense. I never agreed to that. I only see her as a sister. She has been without a home since she was young, and I feel sorry for her, so I treat her kindly. I acknowledge that over the past few years, I have neglected you because of her. I have some grievances with you, feeling that you've changed. But I'm also a victim in this situation. Why didn't you clear things up with me when she wronged you?" I was so angry that I laughed. "After everything that has happened, you still blame me? Thaddeus, you can't be this blind and shift all the blame onto me. If you truly loved me, you would know that I would never do something like that. You don't even trust me at all. Where is the love in that?" Seeing my anger, he immediately knelt down. "Don't be angry. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Please give me a chance. Let's start over. I'm not asking for shares or resources. I don't want anything except for you to come back to me." I quickly stepped back, afraid he would rush at me. Turning around, I scattered all the ashes from the living room onto him. "Thaddeus, this is all the love I've had for you since childhood, and now it's turned to ashes. It can never be restored. Just leave. Let me go and keep some dignity for yourself." He grabbed a handful of the ashes and broke down in tears. "Aurelia, I never thought you would leave me. Now, it seems I've truly lost you for good." After he left, Lucian quietly went home and took out the vacuum cleaner, diligently cleaning the hallway. I felt warmth in my heart and wanted to thank him, but he spoke first. "Don't get me wrong, I'm not helping you. I'm a doctor with obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I can't stand dirty things. The hallway can't be dirty either." Once finished, he closed the door. The hallway looked spotless, as if everything that had just happened had never occurred. I picked up my bag and left, heading straight to the travel agency for advice on seeing the northern lights in Alaska. While leaving, I was still focused on the brochure and didn't notice the danger approaching behind me. Suddenly, a handkerchief covered my mouth and nose, and I lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself tied to a concrete pillar on the rooftop of a half-built building. Thaddeus was tied to a pillar next to me, and the person laughing maniacally at us was Serafina. She was covered in dirt, her dress soiled, and her hair a mess, looking like a madwoman. "Ha ha ha, you two are finally awake. Brother, why are you looking at me like that? Don't you like me? Do you like my Catwoman outfit?" She slowly took off her dress, revealing the filthy Catwoman outfit beneath, then walked up to Thaddeus, pressing a dagger to his face. "Brother, how about it? Do you like how I look now? Thaddeus glared at her angrily, gritting his teeth. You crazy person? I should have never adopted you. If it weren't for you, Aurelia and I wouldn't have ended up like this. Serafina immediately wiped the smile off her face and replaced it with a cold expression. She shoved him hard, causing a wound to appear on his face, blood streaming down his cheek and staining his white shirt. I want you to say it. Do you like it or not? Speak up, or I will kill you. If you're going to kill me, then do it, Thaddeus retorted. I have nothing left. Aurelia doesn't want me anymore. What's the point of me living? Go ahead and make your move. Her anger flared, and she turned toward me, ripping open my collar and exposing my chest to the air. Serafina smiled coldly. Your figure isn't that impressive. What does Thaddeus even see in you? Should I cut you open and see for myself? As she spoke, the dagger glided across my body. Thaddeus, frightened, shouted, If you want revenge, come at me. You can't touch her. If you hurt her again, I'll make you regret it. It was me who drove you out, so come on, kill me. Serafina ignored his yelling and kicked me, causing me to break out in cold sweat from the pain. It wasn't me. It was her. It's all Aurelia's fault. I could have had a perfect life, wealthy parents and a loving brother. Aurelia, you ruined everything for me. You made me a homeless orphan again. Why do you get everything just because you were born? You have parents who love you and a Thaddeus who cares for you, while I've been abandoned by everyone, even the people at the orphanage. What makes you better than me? I've tried so hard to make every member of the Foos family like me, she continued. I endured discomfort to wear those clothes just to get Thaddeus's love. I was almost successful, did you know? But you ruined it all. If I kill you, then Thaddeus's brother, father, and mother will all belong to me. Seeing the raised dagger, I closed my eyes helplessly, but I didn't feel the pain I expected. When I opened my eyes, I found Serafina lying on the ground. Lucian stood behind her, holding a large stone. Before I could ask what had happened, he hurriedly came over to untie the ropes binding Thaddeus and me. Hurry, I've already called the police. They're on their way. When he picked me up and saw my exposed chest, his face immediately turned red. He quickly took off his jacket and wrapped it around me, holding me in front while Thaddeus followed closely behind. Just as we were about to reach the stairs, a scream rang out from behind. Aurelia, I will kill you! I couldn't help but turn my head and saw Serafina, her hair disheveled, running toward me with a dagger. Lucian quickly turned around, stepping in front of me to protect me. In that instant, I saw Thaddeus move even faster, charging straight at Serafina. He used his body to push her toward the edge of the rooftop, shouting, Aurelia, what I owe you, I'm returning it now. In the next second, both of them disappeared from my sight, and all I could hear was the sound of a thud, fading with the wind. After Lucian carried me to the hospital, I asked him how he ended up here, and he explained, There was a stray cat I used to feed nearby. Today it saw me and ran away, so I decided to follow it. I chuckled and said, Maybe you're just lucky. He blushed and replied, No, this is called fate. After I was discharged from the hospital, I quickly packed my things and purchased a plane ticket to Alaska. At the airport security, I was pulled back by a strong hand. Turning around, I saw Victor with Lucian trailing behind him. Victor smiled and handed me 2 first-class tickets. With all this money, you're still flying economies, he said. I was taken aback and asked, Thank you, Victor, but this is a little much. Isn't one enough? It's not just for you, it's for my brother too, he replied, nudging Lucian forward. It wouldn't be safe for you to travel so far alone. Let my brother come with you. It's perfect for a man and woman to travel together. His words made me blush, and I quickly turned him down, saying, Seeing the northern lights is my dream, but Lucian might not enjoy it. He countered, Who says this isn't his dream too? I glanced at Lucian in confusion, but Victor pressed on, Please don't joke about it. I insisted firmly, What I say is final. Lucian quietly nodded in agreement, and I pulled Victor aside, whispering to him, He clearly doesn't want to go, so don't push him. Also, I remember you owe me a favor. This plane ticket doesn't count. Victor smirked. I gave you my handsome brother. Isn't that enough to repay you? Don't be too greedy. I almost forgot to mention, he added, the Fuss Group has officially been renamed to Victor. I wasn't surprised by this news and didn't say much about it. With Victor's strong pull, Lucian and I passed through the security checkpoint together. On the plane, sunlight streamed through the clouds, warming my face. I wondered if my life ahead would be as bright and sunny as it felt now. I was eager to find out.